I swear to you, I have the weirdest life. Okay, get this story. It just happened last night, Friday night into Saturday. It was so weird. Okay, so the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence here in Los Angeles and I were commissioned to do a little show, a little play, a little performance. Like, I tell stories, so we were supposed to play a little story, and I was rehearsing with us. Because of social distancing, because of the epidemic, we rehearsed. We were all tested, we're all fine. So, like, we trusted to be with each other, though we were rehearsing keeping our distance anyway. We had masks. So we were rehearsing, like, out of town. We went out into the Angeles National Forest, okay? And we were rehearsing out in the forest. So, we were away from people just to be safe. And there's, breezes in nature, so it's safe. And so we're rehearsing our play out there, right? Okay. So the weirdest thing happened. I'm not all that new agey. I mean, I practice Hinduism, but like a lot of my friends are new agey. I don't know what it is about Southern California because I gotta admit, there's something here. Like there was some kind of entity, some kind of forest spirit or something that kept screwing with us. Like there'd be little spontaneous fires, which is dangerous out there, and like wind, and like a bear chased us, and the bear chased us all over. We couldn't rehearse. We're like running all over the place. We totally lost each other, right? Okay, and I don't know, I got so tired out or something. I fell asleep. It was like sundown. It was like late at night, so I fell asleep, right? And it was out in the forest, and I knew my way around, and I knew how to get back. So I was like, okay, it's really warm here. So I fell asleep, and I just lay down under a tree, and I fell asleep. So I had the weirdest dream. I mean, it was a weird dream. So I dreamt that somehow I had a donkey's head. Like my head turned into a donkey head, but the rest of my body was normal. It wasn't like a centaur, it was just the head. It was like a reverse centaur. And even though I had this weird ass donkey's head, then all of a sudden I fell in love with a fairy. Okay? And I don't know if it was a transgender fairy or if it was just a femme presenting fairy, but whoever she was female presenting and lithe and, beautiful and, everything that I dress up and try to make myself look like as Sister Unity. She was like if Sister Unity were actually a fairy goddess. And so we're in a relationship, like, and she had all these fairy servants and they're feeding me berries and dewdrops, and she's citing poetry, and I'm speaking in poetry. We're making these love poems to each other, and it's all wonderful and beautiful. And we fall asleep in each other's arms, and then I wake up the next morning and she's gone. I mean, it was just a dream anyway, but it really freaked me out. So I'm running around and I'm like looking for all of my pals, the other sisters, and they've all run back into the LA. And so I go back into LA. And so then we were commissioned to do the show that night. And so we get to City Hall, and the mayor and his husband are supposed to, we're supposed to do the show for them. And uh, like there's a lot of competition. There were a lot of people who were supposed to do shows and some really like good performers. And there was like this guy who has whatever Mike Gurley's job used to be. Like he sort of does everything for the city, sort of like Michael Cohen does for Trump, but this is for the city, only it's not illegal. So anyway, we have to talk to him, like he's the controller or something, and he's the one who's in charge of seeing whether or not we're going to do the show. And he was like telling us we weren't going to do the show. He was telling us he didn't like what we did, that we're not very professional. They've got professional people from Hollywood in. But the mayor apparently heard about us and thought we were kind of ridiculous and funny. So he was like, let's have the silly nun. So we were it. So we were the show. And we did our show. And we did like a sort of a spoof on a ancient Greek, like romantic, tragic comedy thing. And I thought we did great. I thought it was brilliant because everyone was laughing. And they were laughing. They were pointing at us and laughing. So I know it was successful. I mean, we were so successful that they like were taking pieces of their dinner, like fruits and vegetables, and throwing them up onto the stage to us. So it was like this fertility honoring thing of our work. So I know we did great. So, I mean, that was all pretty fun, but also pretty weird. But the other weird thing is there's two other weird things. Like when we're out in the Angeles National Forest, it was a little odd. We kept bumping into these like teenagers, or maybe they're in college. There were these two couples, and they were young. And at first we saw one of these couples, and they were like this kid and his girlfriend, and they were in love, right? And they were like all kissy kissy and stuff, and they looked like they were camping. They looked like they were on some long camping trip. And then later we saw this other couple, and they were like bitching. They were just like totally bitching each other out. I think the girl wasn't bitching. I think just the guy was bitching at the girl. So then later we saw all four of them. and like all four of them were just bitching at each other and arguing, but then they started to chase. We saw them later and they were chasing each other around. Like the girl was running and then both of the guys were chasing the girl and then the other girl was chasing both of those guys. I don't know what the relationship dynamics were, but it was like really weird. um I was like, you guys are really young. Just relax. Like relationships are going to be confusing at that age. Just chill out and relax. When I was leaving the forest in the morning, like I was, driving out of the forest. I actually passed their cars, and both of them, like there were two couples again, and they were like kissing and holding hands, and like it all looked good. So the weirdest thing is that they were in the audience that night. Yeah. So my friend is like a new ager, and she's really into like spirits and stuff, and she's telling me that climate change is all because apparently like the two head fairies, like the king of the fairies and the queen of the fairies, were like going through some divorce something, where at the yin and yang were fighting or something, and so it was upsetting the natural balance because the fairies control the balance of the earth, and she was saying climate change is not like based on human behavior, it's based on fairy behavior. And I was like, I don't know what you were talking about, but all I know is when I got back from the weekend, she was like, oh yeah, don't worry, climate change is done, like the fairies are all in accord and everything's going to be fine. There was something about sex trafficking, some kid or some weird, I do not understand at all. All I know is that we got our show done and it looks good. Just all happened on some crazy evening in the middle of summer. Just an afterthought. This video is really weird, and if it offends you in any way, just let me know. We'll get together, we'll shake hands, and we'll make amends. I'll give you an amends. The whole thing will be fine.